Hello and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host, Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, and of course, my co host, Sean Smith, also of A to Z Sports. We are here to talk Preds and Preds hockey, and boy, are the Preds struggling. Struggle bus, struggle subway, struggle 747 is what the Preds are
Ooh,
right now.
wow.
Struggle blimp. They're riding the
Ooh,
struggle blimp. It is not good in Preds land right now, Sean.
no, it's not.
There are a lot of things going poorly. I think we can all agree. And I think I'd like to start with kind of a list of things that are going on. First of all, how are you? Are you doing good?
I'm great. It's funny you mentioned blimps because I was. Have you ever been in a blimp before, Alex?
Yeah.
Really?
Wait. I maybe not. It's hard to say.
That's hard to say. I feel like that's a
I
momentous
have been
occasion in
I
a
have been in
person's
a
life.
blimp, but the blimp was not in the air. I went inside like a blimp.
You went to a Blimpies and you got a sub
No,
sandwich. Is that what you're
no.
telling
I
me?
went, I went inside a blimp, but the blimp was not in the air. That makes sense, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that must have been a really big blimp on the ground, though. That must have been a sight to see. These things are huge.
Yeah, they are. But anyways, the point is, the Preds are in a really bad situation right now. They have lost 5 straight, and what that means is that is the longest losing streak. I looked this up today. That is the longest losing streak under John Hines for the
Wow.
Nashville Predators. 5 games without a win. They've had 2 previous segments where they lost 4 games in a row, and that was actually earlier this calendar year. But they've now lost 5, 0-4-1.
4 games in a, you mean the playoffs, Alex?
I was just looking at regular season, but yes, that happened as
Oh,
well. So yeah, 3 times if you count the playoffs.
yeah.
I was only looking at regular season, but
Well,
I also looked at John Hines has a 10-game losing streak in his career. That was with New Jersey, obviously.
ooh,
So not immune to the losing streak, John Hines is. But I have a bunch of stuff here, and I guess let's just jump into it because there's
let's do it.
a lot not going well. So
Okay.
here's a couple things. First of all, Roman Yossi has 1 assist in 7 games. Roman Yossi had a 100-point season last year. Not quite 100-point season last year. He's got 1 assist in 7 games. I mean, I didn't look into this totally, but I'm going to guess he did not have very many stretches last year where he had 1 point in 7 games. Maybe not any stretches.
Probably not.
The other thing would be the other most important player on the team, UC Saros. UC Saros is 1-3-1. He has an .894 save percentage, a .908 save percentage at 5-on-5, which ranks 35th out of 63, so right in the middle. 63 goalies have played at least 1 game this year. He ranks 35th at 5-on-5. That's like, that's replacement level. I mean, that's like average, And he ranks 37th in goals saved above average. Usually UC Saros is like top 5 in that category like all year. And he's 37th right now. So UC Saros, not a good start to the year.
No.
Let's see. What else do we have? We have the Ryan McDonough Matthias Ekholm pairing. Out of 96 pairs with at least 30 minutes together, so they've played at least 30 minutes together. There's 96 pairs like that in the NHL. The Ekholm and McDonough rank 70th in expected goals for, and 89th in expected goals allowed. So they are they're among the worst in the league in terms of allowing expected goals. And we've seen that play out. I mean, they've been on the ice for some bad ones. I mean, it's just not been pretty.
It's true.
Okay, that's it. That's all the bad part. Oh, wait, no, it's not. There's still more awful. So here we go. Forsberg, Granlund, Duchesne. They have combined for 4 goals through 7 games. Okay, that's not awful. Until you consider that one of them is an empty netter.
Yeah.
And another one was the goal, the power play goal against Philadelphia on Saturday that really just came too late. really meant nothing.
With an empty net too.
With an empty net, yes, exactly.
So it wasn't just 5-on-4; that was 6-on-4.
6-on-4, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's two of those goals are you can really. I mean, they're not really a reflection of like that line, playing like we saw last year. No. So that's that. The Herd line has been inconsistent. They haven't really done much. They've had their moments. They've had some good moments, but they're not. And then on Saturday they kind of got split up, right?
Yeah, Trennan played up.
Where did Tolvanen go? Did he play?
He was on the fourth line with Glass and
McCarron played.
McCarron, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, McCarron played.
With Big Sexy, Alex.
Yeah. Boy, what a line. Ellie Tolvanen, Cody Glass, and Michael McCarron. Okay, so that happens. And then on top of that, the sort of headline of if you take these first 7 games, the headline is penalties. They lead the league in penalty minutes. They're 4th in penalty minutes per game, 3rd in penalties taken. Their penalty kill has actually kind of saved them. I mean, like it could have been even worse if their penalty kill wasn't 10th best in the league right now.
Yeah.
A lot of practice. And then their power play, god awful, 30th. And that percentage, you ready for this? You ready for this percentage?
I'm not really, but I don't think it's going to stop you.
6.9.
Well, that's kind of nice.
There you go. That's what I was setting up there. So that's a lot of stuff, but that's almost every single line. That's every single defensive pairing. We didn't really talk about the third pairing. Oh, by the way, one side note, Mark Borowiecki is doing better after that awful situation on Saturday. So that's good. That he's improving and seems like he's going to be okay. I mean, he's probably going to be out a while, but
yeah.
So, but every line, goaltending, defensive pairs, every single part of it, there is not one single part of the Nashville Predators that's playing good right now. I can't think of anyone.
I mean, it seems like Cole Smith is exceeding expectations.
What those expectations would be.
You've had some pretty ugly things to say about Smith recently, so I'm just trying to build a guy up. That's all I'm trying to do. No, I mean, you're right. And what's hard, I think, is that it's all happening at the beginning of the season, and not just the beginning of the season, but coming off of what looked to be 2 very exciting, very impressive wins against the Sharks in Prague. And I think what makes that hard is that you kind of had this start to the season before anybody else started playing, and it was like, whoa, hey, 2 wins, and they looked like they were in control most of the time on both of those games. This team's going to be all right. They've made these changes. Forsberg's back. He's got a contract signed, nothing to worry about. The addition of Nino Niederreiter, the addition of Ryan McDonough, the team's gotten stronger. You've got some more scoring help on the second line, and you've got a defender that's really just strengthened the D unit on this team. And then you come back and this happens, and it's a little bit, it's deflating, like that blimp you talked about being in on the ground. And if that really happened,
I don't know. You know how blimps have like a little compartment that you stay in?
Yeah,
I've been in one of those.
I think there's two types of people in the world: people who've been on blimps.
Okay,
and people who lie about being on
not been on a blimp. I was in a little container. It was at the Aerospace Museum or whatever.
Okay, well, is there a blimp attached to it, or was it just the box?
What do you consider a blimp? I mean, I was in the box that is part of the blimp. The blimp, the inflated part wasn't inflated, but
you're at the Air and Space Museum.
Yeah,
and it was. So was it just like the travel compartment, or was the upper part was inflated, just not up in the air? Like they just
gotten out of control. Let me just restate. I've not been in a blimp. Never been inside a blimp.
I thought, like, you said it, and I was like, that's awesome. I was going to ask you all kinds of cool questions about like your adventures, and you're just like, well, it was on the ground.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and it was in a building.
If you said, have you been on a plane, and I'd never flew in a plane before, I probably wouldn't say yes, I've been in a plane, even if I'd been like on one that's on the ground. So, okay. Yeah.
Your story fell apart on its own. Anyway, not important.
Speaking of falling apart, the worst loss of this entire losing streak, in my opinion, was the Columbus loss. So the Kings one was pretty bad, but they did get a point out of that. I mean,
it's true.
It's like that's horribly, that's not an excuse, but like they did get a point technically. The Columbus loss was horrible. I mean, they were controlling that game. They should be better than that Columbus team. That Columbus team's not terrible, but they should be better than that Columbus team. They were owning possession for a while, but then they just handed it to them. And the third period was awful. Columbus just took over, and to not even go out of there without a point was bad. And then they, the Philadelphia game was a little different. I mean, I felt like that one was just kind of played out differently, but the Columbus loss was so bad.
Well, my take on Columbus is it's like you said, you had a team that was dominating, in my opinion, looked good, looked strong, and then all of a sudden it just snapped and it was gone, and it looked like they couldn't recover from what happened because it happened so quickly. With the Flyers, and this was the thing, and over on Renegades of Puck, I was kind of giving a preview of that Flyers game, and I made the comment. I'm like, the Flyers, whom everybody has said are supposed to be one of the worst teams in the NHL this season, really seem like they want to prove everybody wrong. Now, I'm not saying that at the end of 82 games they're going to be at the top of the standings, but they're putting on quite a show. And so I wasn't surprised that they gave a challenge. I think the scary thing was the Predators were doing everything right in that game. They just weren't scoring. And Philadelphia, honestly, was really opportunistic with their scoring and just kind of took advantage of every little mistake that the Predators made to turn it around on them really quick. And once they had them on their heels, it seemed like they just couldn't pull it all in. Like you mentioned, that Duchesne 6-on-4 goal with an empty net, they seemed like they were buzzing at that point. But when you're buzzing with an empty net and a few minutes left on the clock, it's way too late. You gotta get that earlier.
I just went and looked at some things. This kind of blows my mind. So, all right. So some of the goals they've given up, so they lose to the Kings, and 2 goals in the third period go to a gentleman named Matt Roy, who was a defenseman who, going into that game, I believe had 11 career goals.
Yeah,
Matt Roy. So he scores twice in the third period to tie it up. So, but here are some other names of players that scored against the Predators this week. Justin Danforth. Heard of him? I haven't. Maybe some people out there have, but Justin Danforth had 10 career goals going into the game against the Predators. He scored his second goal of the year. How about Nick Blankenberg? Some blanking goals. Nick Blankenberg scored against the Predators. That was the game. I think it was the tying goal, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
Against Columbus. That was his first goal this year, second career goal. So the theme here is the Predators are giving up goals to guys that just don't score. I mean, these are not. Look, they gave up the goal to Johnny Gaudreau. They gave up a goal to Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes is a pretty good player. I believe in the I forget who all scored in the Kings game, but it was fairly typical goal scores there, if I remember correctly, except for Matt Roy. But these are okay. Zach McEwen, who is a
fringe NHLer,
very fringe NHLer, scored his 10th career goal. So that's 10th career goal of Zach McEwen, 13th career goal Matt Roy, and Justin Danforth his 12th career goal. Nick Blankenberg, second career goal, and then there's Joel Farabee, who is the Rocket Richard of the group, who has 46 career goals. Joel Farabee. Farabee's a good player. I like Joel Farabee actually, but he's still not. I mean, his career high is 20 goals on the season, so he's not like an insane goal scorer. So my point is, and these are all goals. All these goals came at huge moments. These were game tying goals, late, come from behind third period goals, pivotal moment or early goals in that Philadelphia game where the Preds. Zach McEwen scored the second goal that very late in the first period, second goal.
That was a momentum killer right there.
Momentum killer, right? So, man, like that right there tells you a lot. Like, I don't understand exactly how that happens. Like, I mean, are they just not playing these guys as tight? Or are they making defensive mistakes? Are they underestimating these guys? I don't know, but like that's a bad list of players to give up a lot of key goals to. If you're giving up goals like to Nathan McKinnon, Patrick Kane, Connor McDavid, okay, but not right. Matt Roy, Nick Blankenberg, Justin Daycroft, whatever his name is. What's his name? Justin Danforth. You know.
Yes. Well, and you got to remember, even playing against the Sharks, they let Luke Cunnin score.
Right.
Familiar face.
That was for. One thing I think the Predators should do is maybe they need to get a little bit better sleep. Maybe they need to relax their back. If they want to do that, Shaun, you know where they got to go? They got to go to Relax the Back. And the store in 2020 Glen Road, right? Next time those guys are in town, or next time that these Predators are needing to upgrade their relaxation environment in their home, they need to go to 2020 Glen Echo Road in Nashville and check out Relax the Back, because they've got tons of customized comfort options for the office, for relaxing at home, for sleeping at night. I've got a little image here if you want to check your screens if you're joining us on YouTube. So right here, we've got a good shot here of some awesome options they have at the Relax the Back store. They've just upgraded their store. They've redone the interior. It looks amazing. On the left there, you can see the Techno Gel bed. That's what I laid on to test out what kind of bed I'm going to get next. It's incredible stuff. It puts your back in the right position for sleeping. On the right, those are some of their more high-end massage chairs. Those things are incredible. You sit in them, they contour to your body, they get your body in the right position, and they're great for recovery. So there you go. You got to go to 2020 Glen Echo Road in Nashville. Check it out. Of course, many sleep options. I mentioned the Techno Gel. They got wedge systems and posture pillows for getting you in the correct natural position. That zero gravity is all about getting your spine the way it wants to be, in that natural sleeping position that we are so not used to anymore as we go through our life and have poor sleep patterns. So go there, check it out. A sleep agent is on hand every day to talk to Glenn. He owns the store, and talk to them about the 4 pillars of wellness: healthy sleep, healthy body, healthy work, and healthy mind. All right. So I feel like we need to maybe give people some semblance of like context about where this is. So we've talked a lot about how bad it is. It is very bad. 5-game losing streak. They're 2-4-1. They're 5th in the Central. Just a horrible place. But Shaun, is there anything we can tell people that gives them any semblance of hope or about the future? Or I know you said you had something that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I've been doing some research today for a piece that should be coming out soon. A little more in depth than some of the more recent explorations of the reverse retro jersey and things like that. So I want to talk about. I know it was thrilling, but I want to talk about some other teams. I want to talk about the Colorado Avalanche last season. Maybe you remember the Colorado Avalanche, but the Predators met them in the first round of the playoffs, where they were handily destroyed in 4 games. That 4-game losing streak we just discussed. And they did eventually, if you recall, win the Stanley Cup. Now, what I want to say is that you're going to notice a trend here is that the teams we're talking about are the teams that have won the Stanley Cup. So I just went and looked at the first few games of each of those teams during their championship season. So if you had to guess, Alex, over the first 7 games of the Avalanche season last season, what was their record? The
4-3.
Close. 3-4.
3-4.
3-4. They lost their first. They won their first game, then lost 3 in a row. Won one in a shootout, lost another one, and then won the 7th. And then they won their 8th, and then lost 2 more games, both of the Columbus Blue Jackets, before going on a winning streak after that looked pretty impressive. So, this isn't me saying like, don't worry, the Preds are going to win the Stanley Cup, but I want people to understand, because it seems like so many of these reactions that people are having to this, this start are very, very negative. And it's almost like there's never been a start this bad in the history of the NHL. But I want to point out that, look, last year's Stanley Cup champions started off with one more win than the Predators have. Now that's fun, but let's talk about the 2020, 2021 Lightning, and they is a little bit different. What would you guess their record was in the first 7 games? It's different, trust me.
5-2.
5-1-1. 5-1-1. Yeah,
Okay.
they had 2 losses. One was in overtime, but so they did get a point. But that's, look, they eventually won the Stanley Cup. And what's funny is 2 of the teams that they beat in those first 7 games were in fact the Nashville Predators. So okay, let's look at the 2019-2020 Lightning again. If you had to guess, Alex, what was their record?
1-6.
Well, you're trying to play into what I'm trying to do here, but you're wrong. It's 4. Let me see, 4-2-1. They lost one in overtime, but again, it's a better start. What do you think about the St. Louis Blues back in 18-19? What was their record to start
Now I
their
know
first 7 games?
I know they were bad to start. Let's go 1-6 for them.
They were 2, 3, and 2.
2, 3, and 2.
2, 3, and 2.
Yeah, they were
not a great
like
start.
Historically bad. They were real bad through Christmas.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're exactly right. But I mean, the thing is, look, let's keep going, but you'll see what I'm trying to do here. All right, look, 2017, 2018. Let's talk about the who is this? The Capitals. Yeah, well, they started off with a shootout win, another win, overtime loss, a win, a loss, and a loss. I mean, it's not like they seemed like they had anything going on at the beginning of that season either.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the year before with the Penguins. Look, they won their first game in a shootout, won their second game, overtime loss, win, loss, win. And you know what's funny?
And they fired their coach. They fired their coach like November or December, and then what's his name? Mike Johnson took him all the way.
But then the Predators that same season, the eventual Western Conference champions, if you will, a team that everybody, I mean, gosh, when you hear people talk about that team, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but we're several seasons removed from the 16-17 Predators. I mean, gosh, they were still wearing Reebok jerseys. When people talk about that team, there was a team. That team had some grit. That team could get the job done. Right, Alex? Have you heard that before?
I have.
Guess what their record was to start off the first 7 games? Just guess.
Wait, who is this again?
The Predators in 16-17.
Oh yeah, they were pretty bad. They started off pretty bad that year.
You know what they started off? 2-5.
2-5. Yeah.
2-5. So I'm not saying this
because, by the way, I was wrong. It was the 15-16 Penguins. They had Mike Johnston. They fired him, and then Mike Sullivan won 2 cups in a row.
That's right. I thought that seemed a little off, but you were rolling. And I mean, as a man who's been in a blimp, I got to take your word for it. Anyway, here's the thing. I'm not saying that correlation equals causation, that necessarily a bad start to the season means you're going to win the Stanley Cup championship. But I want people to see that over the course of the first 7 games, the season is not won, nor is it lost. This is just a rough start. Now, the real question is, talk to me after the next 13 games. If the record's still really lopsided, something's wrong, like really wrong. But if this rights itself, then it's just a rough start. And a lot of teams have had that and ended up winning the Stanley Cup. So I don't think you can really, I mean, again, I'm not saying you're wrong, Alex. I'm not saying you're wrong.
The problem is, I think, okay, so I keep coming back to, I don't know what this team is even good at right now. I don't know what particular thing that you can say they do well. There's almost nothing. And so in previous Preds now that doesn't mean that they won't discover that, but in previous years when the team struggled, there was almost always a backbone, and usually it was the goaltender, Pecorine, Saros at times, or Roman Josi. Back earlier at the end of last year, end of 2022, Roman Josi was like kind of the only thing going well. I mean, it was pretty much just like him and Saros, and that was it. And no one really felt good about where the team was going. So, but what is that now? I mean, like Nino Niederreiter early on was like kind of a big part, but I mean that line has struggled the last few games. Tolvanen has had moments, but he almost seems like he has too much to do. Like he's kind of focusing on like playing a 200-foot game. He can't really score as much. He's also not playing on the power play, at least not the top power play. We talked about the defense. I mean, the structure of the defense does not look pretty. Doesn't look like they know exactly where they're going. They've had breakdowns. The biggest thing that you can count on usually almost every year with the Nashville Predators is that their goaltending is going to save them. This is what it looks like when the goaltending doesn't save them.
You're right. And I've said for a long time, this team has been, up until you saw, Riddick in net last season, everyone was like, what is this? This goalie's not very good. I mean, most teams have a fairly replacement level backup goaltender. Nashville's been very, very spoiled with the goaltending tandem for quite a while. You get a guy like Riddick backing you up, and I mean, I hate to say that because he seems like a fantastic person, but when you've got someone like Riddick back there, you can't rely on the backup. And at the same time, if you then have a starter who's struggling, then you really start to feel what that's like to be on a team that doesn't have stellar goaltending, and you're like, oh, this is pretty bad. So, you mentioned Tolvanen. I feel like you made a good point. He's trying to focus on his 200-foot game, and that's something that it seemed like had developed pretty well, and they thought that they were going to be able to rely on him at this point to kind of get back to, okay, now that you've got the 200-foot game under control, now when you're on the offensive zone, that's when you need to kind of turn it on and use your gifts and your unique talents to make things happen. And, he had he didn't start on the second line. He had a few shots there when they saw a little chemistry, but they've been pretty quick to move on. And I think that's kind of the story of the season is, look, they said in camp that other wing spot on the second line was up for grabs. It seems like it still is. It seems like it's an open audition. It's just continuing on into the season. And that doesn't just impact the second line. That impacts the third line because you see Trennan moving up, which impacts the fourth line because you see Cole Smith playing up there and Tolvanen moving down. So there's a lot of chaos on those, I don't want to use the word bottom three, but on every line except the top line is seeing some shifting, and it's hard to get chemistry going when you've got a different person on your wing every night or every other night.
People that are right now calling for, Hines to get fired or whatever, like, folks, that's not going to happen. I mean, 7 games ostensibly after John Hines got an extension, a 2-year extension, they're not going to fire him. Like, it's not going to happen in 7 games. But I think that it's perfectly reasonable to want answers and like to want people to want the team to respond and to improve. So they've got St. Louis on Thursday. They've got Washington on Saturday. Both of those teams are, better than the Nashville Predators right now, and they're kind of, they're not like incredible. I don't understand why the Blues have only played 3 games so far. That's very weird.
Really?
The Blues have played 3 games. Yeah, maybe they're playing tonight. They might be playing tonight, but they play as of there's some teams that have played 7 and 8 games, and they've only played 3. The Predators have played 7. Very weird. But the Blues have 3 games, and they're 3-0. Basically, the Blues are a team that the Predators are probably not going to match up well. I mean, if the Predators struggle to get offense going against a team like the Flyers, well, they're probably going to struggle against the Blues because the Blues are better than the Flyers. So that does not bode well for Nashville. So we'll see what happens with Predators this week. 2 more games to test it out. They have a few days off here where, they definitely are going to get away a little bit. They have community week or whatever it is. So they'll do that. And then they come back Thursday for the Blues, and then Saturday for the Capitals. And then they go on a nice little 5-game West Coast trip where they can maybe find a couple wins. I don't know. Who knows? But until then, we will be putting out all kinds of content. Of course, Shaun already mentioned that he'll have some stuff up this week. I know I will as well, trying to address exactly what's going on with these Nashville Predators. No, John Hines is not going to get fired. Players are probably not going to get traded or cut right now. They're just going to have to work through it. So sorry if that's kind of what you're calling for, but it's probably not going to happen. It's going to have to get a lot worse for that to happen. So until then, we'll check out all of our hockey coverage at A2ZSports.com, and follow Shaun on Twitter at SCSNSH. Follow me on Twitter at AlexDoherty1, and we'll see everybody next time.